Welcome in. So freaking sorry that I ended up having to push this half an hour back. I had a nail appointment that literally went 3 hours. We'll give it a few minutes for people to come in. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. Again, sorry I am late. We had to push back the stream half an hour because I literally had a nail appointment that lasted 3 hours, which has never happened before. So I did not foresee that. Yes, all is well. I just didn't want to kick her out of my apartment. So that's what happened. But yes, everything's good. We're ready to roll. We're ready to write. How's everyone doing? How's everyone's book projects coming? We're getting pretty far into Nano. Would love to hear how the progress is. Hey, Eduardo, welcome back. So glad you're joining us again, or me, I guess. Yeah, this is my first solo stream. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. Having Amina here last time definitely was a comfort, but we're gonna have fun. So yeah, how's everyone's projects coming along? If you were here last week, what progress have you made? Sammy, I see you're gonna be reading. Peter hit 40K. That's insane. Congratulations. Home stretch now. Final 10K words. That's wild. Sammy, what are you reading right now? Would love to hear that. I guess a little bit of a progress update for my Nano. I think I'm actually, you know what? I should have checked my word count before this. Let me take a quick look. Let's see what I'm at. I'm gonna have to go to the Nano website real quick. But I've been having so far a decent writing weekend this weekend again. Okay, I'm only at 12,000 words, guys. Let's see how you guys are doing. I am super behind. Me freaking too. I'm right there with you. Adam says today was a weird day. Was going to carry on with research, but my energy levels were hit and miss. Totally fair. I have not written yet today, so I'm glad that we're on stream. I'm also was last week my first stream. Yes, my first stream ever. This channel has literally existed for I think less than a month, so I'm very new to the streaming game. Helps when I've been making notes like a madman since January. You know what? I wish I was in your position. I could not relate less. But that's great. I do think going into next year's Nano, I will try to be way more prepared in terms of outlining because I did myself dirty this year for sure. That being said, though, like the past 2 weekends, the words have been flowing. Like if you guys saw my first Nano Diaries video, and I'm working on a second one right now, I talked about the fact that I've been way more in flow than I was at the beginning of the month. So that's exciting. Hoping for some big word days this week, but I fear 50K might be a reach at this point. Same here. I feel like maybe tomorrow I could get a good word count, but I've given up on 50K at this point for sure. Eduardo, did you get a chance to write at all this week since our last stream? Any updates on how your book is going? Would love to hear. Yeah. I'm trying to think where I'm at in my project, if there's anything interesting update-wise. I'm still kind of in the phase of the characters testing out their magic, so I've been working on those scenes. Still very much in the middle weeds of the book and trying to figure out the romance and the character dynamics. Had no time to write this week. Haha. My statistical mechanics class really kicked my butt, but now it's over, thank God, and I can focus on my research and writing. Amazing. Yeah, I feel that. I also did not write at all during the week. I feel like I'm having a really hard time writing on work days, which has been interesting and not something I really expected. But when your brain is just like fried from other things, it's really hard to pull together the like will and motivation to write. So I feel that. Plan, plan, plan. It will save your butt. Yeah, I'm definitely learning that. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to document the revision process because I have a feeling that's going to be an absolute freaking tornado. I've never revised a book before, guys, because back when I was writing in high school, you can bet your ass I was never sticking with a project long enough to get to revision. So that's going to be so interesting. And I definitely will have to do some like hardcore structuring, planning, etc., going into draft 2. So, looking forward to that, I guess. Okay. We will get into the sprints in probably 2 or so minutes. Just want to give a couple more minutes in case anyone else wants to join. Um, okay. I'm not sure what I want to read. I want to read a romance, but also a fantasy. Maybe I'll read something with both, but I don't know what. Yeah, those genres are up my alley too. Are you reading on like a Kindle so you can like kind of pick out whatever you want? I feel like I go so back and forth about getting a Kindle, guys, because on the one hand, I'm like, I love the physical book experience, but if I keep getting further and further into reading, I might have to go for it. Brielle, I failed last year for having notes for notes. Do not do that. Notes for notes. I failed last year for having notes for notes. I feel like my brain is not able to compute what this means. For having no notes? Or for not having like a strict outline or like more elaborate notes? Curious what you mean there. But yeah. I do kind of wish I had more of a planned out structure going into this first draft, but then at the same time, the discovery writing has been working for me. And a lot of this stuff, I'm like, I don't know if I could have come up with this before I started drafting. So I kind of feel like my process has been working, even if it is a little bit more, I don't even want to say slow going because I've been getting decent word counts, but like on the days that I am writing, I just haven't been able to write as consistently as I know some people are able to. But I feel like that's, a little relatable. Something said in your latest video really struck a chord with me that writing for shorter periods of time makes the draft feel choppy. Yeah, this was such a realization for me. And now I understand why when people are in like a hardcore writing period, they kind of tune out the rest of the world and they go into the cave for it because like the immersion that you can get with just sitting with your characters for an extended period of time makes it so much easier to get their voices right, the tone of the book right, things flow a lot more naturally. Like when I was writing so inconsistently, I had to keep rereading everything I'd written and then try to get back into it, but it's so much easier when you're in these bigger chunks for sure. Hi, Tawanda. Thank you for joining us. I told everyone else that I ended up going live half an hour later than expected because I had a nail appointment that was 3 hours long. But we're here now, so welcome to the stream. I'm excited to have you here. What are you working on? Any insights into your project? Where are you at in your project? But yeah, Eduardo, happy to hear that that struck a chord because that was like a big realization. And I think I'm going to do a video at the end of Nano all about like the realizations that I had from doing my first Nano and like things I learned because I think that would be really interesting to reflect on because it has been quite an experience so far for sure. Okay, how's everybody feeling? Are we feeling ready to get into our first 25-minute sprint? Oh, okay. I've noticed that I catch myself even repeating descriptions and expressions because it's been so long since I last wrote, and I honestly thought I was coming up with something new. That's a good point. Sometimes I'll be writing something and I'll get kind of deja vu, and I'm like, did I use a very similar line to this in a previous chapter? But I think that's super normal. You kind of forget some of the stuff that you included, and if it's one of your like go-to phrases, it can be super easy to get repetitive if you're not in the story consecutively, But it's tough because I'm sure a lot of you also have like full-time jobs or other obligations. So sometimes you do have to step away from the story and come back and try to get back into that immersion. Glad I could be here in your beginnings. Happy to have you here. Yes, it's a very exciting time in these early stages. Hopefully we'll catch these during revision. Oh yeah. We have some work to do during revision for sure. But that's what it's for, right? And a first draft can be messy, and I have to keep reminding myself that because my perfectionist self is like, it needs to sound pretty on the first try? Okay. So we've chatted for a good 10 minutes. I think we're going to go ahead and get into the first sprint. We'll see how many sprints we end up doing tonight. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of motivated, but also a little delirious because I haven't eaten dinner. So we'll see how many we get into. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And then afterwards, we'll chat about the progress we made. Make sure to keep track of your word count because we'll be checking in on that. And let's get into it. All right, guys. I think I accidentally worked through a minute of the break. But how did everyone's first sprint go? I did not get that many words, if I'm being totally honest. I think I got, let's see. Okay, I got 235 because I realized like 10 minutes into the sprint that I was actually starving and that if I didn't go eat some food, I was gonna like pass out. So, um, not bad though, and I feel like I'm getting back into it a little bit. I got some hot chocolate also for the vibes. How was everyone's sprint? Let me know in the comments. What did you guys write? How many words did you get? I want to hear it all. I'm going to be sipping on this hot chocolate. I'm going through a hot chocolate phase, which I honestly love for me. Oh, we did also get some comments during the sprint itself. There are people like John Hughes who sealed himself off and wrote The Breakfast Club in 3 days, but I think the rest of us aren't marathon people. We do sprints to be nice to ourselves. Very true. And I've heard about writers having just like absolutely insane writing routines and writing schedules. And I have a similar thought process about it as I do with like method actors, where I'm just like, maybe the fanfare really does help them in their process, but I'm just like, is all of this necessary? Like, I'm a little skeptical of people who have like absolutely insane things that they do to get into the zone. But you know what? Whatever works. Let's do this. We love the enthusiasm. Created another document, measured my backlog of progress. Nice. Very nice. Yeah. The hot chocolate is hitting the spot, especially because I'm a little sick this weekend. I don't know what I have, but I'm trying to just like make it into a cozy weekend and hopefully get some words done since I can't really do much else. But yeah, it's delicious. I didn't get very far because I needed to research. I looked up sword ferns. Interesting. Yeah, I've been generally skipping over sections where I feel like I need to do research just because I know how much it would slow me down. For example, I need to figure out the magic system, especially now that the magic is starting to come into play. And I came up with this thing called like the 5 principles that's going to be like basically the code of how the magic works. And I was like, okay, I'm going to throw that phrase in there for now, but I'm going to have to come back and actually decide what those rules are. Anything like that, I feel like is quite an undertaking to figure out. Jealous of that hot chocolate. I am hypothetically sharing it with you through the screen. Wow. Yeah, I'm a little woozy, guys. I waited too long to eat. I don't know if this happens to anyone else when you're like starving, but like my brain is a little foggy. I started section 2 of chapter 1 and I got 419 words. Wow, that's pretty good. Pretty happy with this beginning. I was planning this section to have around 1K words, but I think it's going to be a lot longer. Yeah. Okay. Well, congrats on making such a dent in chapter 1. Exciting to be so early on in the book. I feel like the first couple chapters is really fun, but also really hard to get into. Curious. Oh my God. Sorry. The thoughts just left my brain. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Curious. How long is a standard chapter for you guys? I know it fluctuates a lot, obviously, but I am curious to hear. I also know that there's different expectations with different genres, but I feel like my chapters have been netting out usually around like 1,000 to 3,000 words. Method is a bit understood outside the acting world. You don't have to literally become the character in order to do it right. Yeah, that's fair. I did go to film school, so I feel like I know a little bit about the acting world, but I agree. I think I don't know. I think tapping into a character is a lot more about being able to connect it to something you've felt or experienced than necessarily trying to like act like them and like send your co-stars dead animals. Not to like call out Jared Leto right now, but in fact, on a scale of 1 to Jared Leto, oh, I'm dead. That's so fucking funny. I didn't even like read that before I said that. But yes, I agree. I'm not saying that it's commonplace by any means. I think those outliers, though, are like a little extreme. And I'm like kind of skeptical that it helps. I'm not writing LOL. I'm using this live stream as a way to work on my Photoshop skills because I've been procrastinating doing that like crazy. Working on a vision board right now. Ooh, that's cool. Are you making like a vision board for 2024 or just like in general. I always make yearly vision boards and it's so much fun. Um, yeah, I'm familiar with Photoshop as well. I've been using the Adobe program since college. Standard, I've had 20 plus page chapters. Interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like it fluctuates from project to project, right? That sounds intense. I have a hard time gauging pages just because the writing software I've been in hasn't really showed me pages. So I honestly have no idea even like how many pages I have in my manuscript right now. I got about 490 words. I've also been skipping research sections, but I put in some work last week and it's really been helping the discovery writing flow. That's awesome. 490 words. That's really substantial. Yeah, I think that's important. It sounds like you might have a semi-similar strategy to me in the sense that you do the planning when you need it type of thing, and then you kind of are able to discover for a chunk, and then you need to rethink and then discover for a chunk. I feel like luckily I've been so far kind of getting the ideas when I need them sort of naturally, which I'm very grateful for, but I know that probably won't always be the case. There's going to be times where I'm going to have to like sit down and figure stuff out before continuing. I'm right at the end of chapter 4, currently at 6K words. I can't stop myself from line editing as I go. Send help. Girl, I am right there with you. I'm also line editing as I go, and it is tough because you just don't want anything on the page that you think sounds bad, you know? But that's the hardest thing to get past, I think, because it really does prevent you from getting into flow if you're line editing while you go. But I totally feel you there. Congrats on being at 6K words. I'm planning my book to have a handful of long chapters divided into shorter sections, 10K to 12K chapters, 4 to 6 sections each. Oh, that's really interesting. I like that idea. Remind me, Eduardo, what your book is about. I can't remember from last stream or even just like generally the genre and vibe. My chapters have been averaging around 3,000 words. Okay, yeah, that feels about right. I am an underwriter, so I think that's why some of my chapters are a bit shorter, but as I've been getting further into the book, they are feeling like they're around 3K words too. I've seen some YouTubers doing like writing routines of famous authors, and they're almost always absolutely insane to me. I've been seeing those videos too, and I'm not even gonna lie, guys, I kind of want to try them. I also know that they're really popular. Like they do well, and viewers seem to like them as well. I definitely think I'm gonna have to do it at one point, but the ones that require you to like get up at like 4 a.m. or like stay up till 2 a.m, guys, I don't know if I could handle that. I'm gonna be so honest. I'm just really, my body does not do good with weird sleep schedules, but would I do it for the video? Probably. The problem, real, is that I feel like it's a disservice in this book to have the worlds in each chapter to bleed together. Oh, is that referring to your comment about how long the chapters are? Interesting. Each world is reflective of a single video game. Oh, that's so interesting. You're the one that writing, are you the one that's writing the sci-fi? I could be totally remembering wrong, referring to Peter, but it's sort of contemporary, supposed to be more character focused, about 4 guys who are kind of lost in the world, but who have each other's backs. Oh, that's really sweet. So is it like sort of a coming of age type of vibe, or more like, is it following 4 like adult guys? Very curious. I love a good character focused story. I feel like I wrote a lot of those in college when I was writing screenplays. Film school loves the character driven plots. Used to be nocturnal, so I didn't really call them all-nighters. I just called it work. That's funny. Did you were you also working during the day during that time? Because if so, that's insane. Or were you just staying up at night and sleeping more so during the day? Listen, I simply could not even do a single all-nighter. I tried in college a couple times, and I would always just like fall over around 3 a.m. And the one time that I did actually make it through an all-nighter, I was so exhausted the next day that I could not go to class. I simply had to go back to bed, completely defeating the purpose of the all-nighter, of course. Science fiction edutainment man. Nice. I'm trying my best to keep track of like the people who consistently comment on my videos and stuff, what projects you guys are working on so that we can, discuss and all of that. I'm the kind of dude who relishes in shows like Dr. Stone and Cells at Work. I think science fiction is so impressive to me just because of the the sheer amount of stuff that you have to figure out to write science fiction. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if my brain works in that way. But then again, even like the world building part of fantasy kind of hurts my brain, but at the same time, I love it. So, not the day, no, slept. Okay, thank God. Because if you were like up for 24 hours, I was gonna express some concern. Characters are early to mid 20s, so they're not really worried about the future as of yet, haha, but they might get a couple of wake up calls during the book. I think that's such a fun time to play with because I feel like you realize so many things during those years. So you could totally play with like it's almost like a loss of innocence type of time of life. Like the number of things that I've realized in the past couple of years. I'm 24, and I have no doubt that in the next few years it will continue to be a huge time of transformation. So I feel like that's a really fun time to write about. Kind of random question, but have you seen St. Elmo's Fire? It's like a movie from the 80s. I'm not sure if I don't think it's John Hughes, but it has a lot of those like classic 80s actors and it follows, I think they're like 20 somethings. It's a fun movie. It's actually probably one of my favorite 80s movies. I lost a lot of vitamin D, which explains my moods at the time. Yeah. I'm someone who's really fueled by sunlight, so I totally get that. I would also be moody if I was not awake during daylight hours. I love coming up with science fiction concepts, but actually writing them is much harder than it feels it's supposed to be. Totally feel the same way. Yeah, I don't think I could go through the entire process with the sci-fi concept. We'll see. It's interesting to me that there is a lot of overlap between science fiction and fantasy writers. To me, they feel like two totally different beasts, and I don't know if I would ever have interest in writing sci-fi. I think if I was going to write another genre besides fantasy, it would likely just be like contemporary romance. Although, who knows? Still very early on in the journey, and I didn't even know I wanted to write fantasy till semi-recently, so here's the idea of science fiction. It's more science fiction. It's rooted in nonfiction with a twist. Yeah, that's true. And that's also why it feels kind of distant from fantasy for me, even though there is overlap between writers and audiences. Like the great science fiction stories are rooted in science fact. Yeah, definitely. 20 somethings like Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Tom Cruise. I skipped that film. Yeah, I don't think Tom Cruise was in that. I don't know if is that sarcastic? I can't tell. But yeah, it did have some of those people, and it had did it have the Anthony Hall in it? I don't know. I watched it a long time ago as research for a short film I was working on. Sci-fi writers scare me in a good, you're way too smart for me way. I feel the same freaking way. Yeah, Diamond, did you mention what project you're working on? I don't know if you did. Would love to hear what your story is. I haven't seen it, but looking it up sounds exactly like something that might inspire me. Thanks for the recommendation. Of course. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of angsty, but in like a fun way, I guess I would say is the best way to describe it. Yeah. Okay, this has been so fun. Thank you guys so much for being active in the chat. We're gonna keep going with the sprints, obviously, but we're probably wrapping up the chat soon. Did you enjoy the directing part as much as the writing? Fascinatingly enough, I wasn't a screenwriting major. I was straight up a cinema major, and I was directing all of the projects I was working on. As far as how much I enjoyed it, I found it extremely challenging because directing is one of those weird things where it almost feels like you're trying to tell actors how to act, and actors know how to act more than a director knows how to act. So that's what made it kind of challenging, and I didn't really have any interest in learning how to act, so that was a roadblock. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think it was quite for me, though I did have fun with it while I was in school. Apparently, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, so basically half the cast of The Breakfast Club. Exactly. Extreme overlap with The Breakfast Club cast, but it's very fascinating because Judd Nelson, who was the character in The Breakfast Club that was like the edgy burnout one, in St. Elmo's Fire, he's like the buttoned up business guy. So he plays a drastically different role. And same with the girl who played the like weird girl in Breakfast Club, playing a drastically different role. So it's very interesting to see. Here's what's funny. In another writing project, I found a way to reference the semi-parody evolutions resolve in a video I'm making for my channel. Oh, so do you have a, channel? That's cool. Also a writing channel? My whip is called Project September, high fantasy told from the villain's perspective. Ooh, that's so fun. I love that. Told from the villain's perspective. That's interesting. So, would you say you're, like, trying to build sympathy for the villain? How are you navigating having a villain as your main character? Like, are you trying to figure out ways to make them still likable? Are you, like, okay with the fact that they might not be likable? Curious to hear more about that because I've never tried writing from a villain's perspective. Oh, this brings up a question that I wanna ask you guys. Have you ever written a dual POV book or a book with multiple POVs in general? And if so, how did you feel about that process? Um, do you feel like it was challenging in different ways? Did you struggle switching between different voices? I would love to hear because the current book that I'm writing, I don't think will be dual POV, but I have played with the idea of it being a duology and the second book being dual POV. So let me know if you have any experience with multiple POVs. My philosophy is directors should have acting gigs under their belt in order to understand it. There are exceptions, but I totally agree, which is also one of the reasons why it's not something I stuck with because I was like, I know to be a good director, I would need to dive into understanding acting more because otherwise it feels very weird and prescriptive and like I haven't been in your shoes, but I know better than you, which felt always very strange and I think made me more of an insecure director. So, yeah, I totally agree. Directors should have acting training, which is part of the reason why ultimately I don't feel like it was for me because I mean, I just didn't really have a desire to get that deep into the craft of directing in the way I know I would have had to get good at it. The one I'm writing to you from, yes, I like to make videos on juicing fruit, and yes, I have written a dual perspective story. Nice. Okay, yeah. It's hard for me to see. I mean, like, I can't click on anyone's channels right now in the chat, but I'll have to check it out. That's fun. One was from past and future, and from a male and female perspective to reflect the ones and zeros of data. Oh, that's really cool. I like that concept. Yeah, the dual timeline. That's a whole other layer. um, I don't know. Dual timeline seems like another hurdle to tackle. I feel like I'll want to test out all of these different formats at some point just to like get the experience of it and see what it's like. And I feel like it'll be good practice. Nope, she's evil. There's no redemption for her. I love that. I want everyone to hate her, but they'll still understand why she is the way she is. I like that. I think that's kind of refreshing. And props to you if you're still able to like keep the reader super engaged despite having a unlikable MC. Definitely possible, but I can understand how that could be challenging too. But that's cool that you're like letting her just be evil. I appreciate that. Okay. Yes, thank you for this. Yeah, carrying on a dozen conversations and trying to keep track of it all, it's not the easiest, but it's also really fun. We'll jump back into sprints in a second, I promise. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that because I could talk forever. We're definitely gonna do at least one more, though I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up doing two more if you guys are down. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and hop back into it. Another 25-minute sprint. Hopefully I won't miss the timer going off this time. I don't know why the audio is not working, but all right. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, guys, how'd everyone do that sprint? I got 278 words. Definitely writing a little bit slow today, but I think we've broken past 500, so I'll take it. Um, yeah, it's not flowing super easily. I think I'm kind of in between scenes almost right now. Like I'm writing kind of transitional moments. So I feel like that always is a bit more slow going for me versus when I'm like in the depths of dialogue or something. But how about you guys? How many words did you get? How'd that sprint feel? Are you guys feeling like it's flowing easily? Are you feeling creative? Did you come up with any cool ideas? Let me know. Let me know. I came up with a sort of exciting plot twist slash reveal that I want to incorporate into the story yesterday in the shower, actually. So I'm starting to plant the seeds for that now. Basically, putting the little signs in of what is going to be revealed later. So that's going to be kind of fun to try and weave in some hints for the reader. At 40,445 words now, sword ferns apply for a lot of fighting puns. Wow. You're getting super close to 50K, super excited for you. And you still have, oh God, how much left? How much time is there left in Nano? Like a good week and a half. So definitely in the home stretch. 359 words. That's pretty good too. That's awesome. Looks like you're getting some pretty good word counts today, which we love to see. I don't know if I'm having a hard time focusing because I still need to eat more food. It's possible. But I also might just be working through a bit of a lull in the story right now. Checked my emails, then went to the kitchen, but had a massive brain fart regarding what I went in there for. Very relatable. Yeah, I like that you guys use these sprints for a variety of purposes. Definitely not limited to just writing, but yes, we love all productive tasks in this house. Yeah. For those of you on the East Coast, it's kind of late over there. Like getting close to 11, right? I'm curious where everyone is. I know Eduardo, you're in Brazil, I believe. Um but yeah, I'm on the West Coast, so it's just about 8 p.m. here. I felt pretty good about what I wrote in that sprint, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, it is kind of an in-between sort of situation. I'm trying to get better about lacing in more of my characters' thoughts and reflections throughout the chapters. Just because I feel like that's part of what makes a story feel just like fun and rich. And I really like that in books. So that's something I'm trying to get better at is like having her react strongly in her head, even when she's not reacting in person, you know? I'm in the West Coast too. Awesome. I feel like that's rare. I feel like I very rarely hear people are also located on the West Coast. Love that. It's almost 1 a.m. here. Oh my God. My eyes are going pretty tired, but I actually kind of like writing like this. I feel like I turn off the anxious part of my brain and just write. Okay, I kind of get that too, because sometimes I feel like being a little bit delirious can help me write because it allows you to really just tap into that more creative part of you instead of constantly filtering yourself. So yeah, I guess that's probably part of the reason why people enjoy nighttime writing as well, is that you can kind of just go into this own little world outside of your regular like thoughts and outside of your regular brain, I guess. But yeah, I totally get that. Um, I'm on the East in Florida. Oh, that's cool. One of my friends, Amina, who I actually did the last sprint with, is from Florida. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I think that's the vast majority of my viewers are East Coast people. Um, yeah, but I'm honestly amazed that you're still able to be productive at almost 1 a.m. because as much as I see the benefits of slight delirium, I also am the type of person who feels like they can't get anything that requires brain power done past like midnight. So it's a mixed bag, you know? My intent from this book was to recontextualize the types of resources that my area can supply. Ooh, that's interesting. What your area can supply. Do you want to go into a little bit more detail? I don't know if you're comfortable sharing which state you're from, but that's very interesting. One of the things that I think I need to do some exploring on is settings, specifically describing rural settings. Writing this book has made me realize how little I know about geography. I don't know. Like, for example, my characters are like trekking through land in this book, and I can't figure out if I want it to be like desert like or like more lush. But I'm like, I don't know how to describe any of this. I don't know what type of plants would be around. Like, I'm really struggling with that. So I'm gonna have to do some research. Oh my god, hi Amina. So glad I was able to make it to the last half of the stream. Hope you guys got lots of ish done. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Amina was my co-host last time, and we're hosting another stream next weekend, I think also on Saturday. So definitely come for that. Thanks for dropping in, Amina. We love it. I'm in Oregon. Oh, Oregon's supposed to be beautiful. I've never been there before, but I really want to like visit Portland, but also the beautiful nature over there. I'm going to be moving to Washington, so different vibe, but also still West Coast. I guess the one thing my degree in physics has taught me was to get things done no matter what state I'm actually in. That's kind of amazing though. Yeah, I do feel like when you have a super rigorous academic life, you learn to push yourself past some bounds that other people do not know how to push themselves past. Honestly, looking back at my time in school, I'm just like, how was I surviving? How was I doing this? Because the amount of times that I was writing whole ass essays or studying for tests at like 10% brain capacity, I'm like, it is honestly a miracle that I was able to do any of that. I'm also on the West Coast. Oh my God, cool. I love that. Also, Mick, you make content as well, right? I feel like I was literally looking at your channel earlier today. Oh, this is so cute. Reunions happening. I'm also glad Amina's here. It can be one-sided oftentimes. City life is what excites people. Yeah, that's true. Very true. I do not recommend Portland, but the outskirts of that area are lovely. Very interesting. I've only heard positive things about Portland from people who have lived there or visited there, but that is interesting. I feel like in general, cities are often not as nice as the outskirts of those cities. Same thing is true with LA. Not safe. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, this is really sweet, guys. I love the little reunion happening in the comments right now. Super good point about incorporating your character's thoughts into the narrative. I need to read through what I have and see how often I'm doing that. Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance because I know some readers get exhausted by having an internal monologue going on, but I'm like, that's where a lot of the juice comes from. That's the whole point of being in a character's perspective, right? So I think it's something that I'm going to have to probably fill in more of in the second draft because I do think that that's where a lot of the depth and the fun comes from. But it doesn't come very naturally sometimes to add in those antidotes of how the character's feeling. Like, even when your character is internally reacting strongly, I found myself oftentimes not even bothering to touch on that. Like, oh, she's super uncomfortable in this situation, and I'm not even gonna mention it. Like, I have to. It's where a lot of the getting to know the character's voice comes from too. I'm curious, do you guys have any advice for differentiating the voices of different characters and just making sure that they have distinct personalities? This is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, but I've definitely been struggling with in this first draft, is just characters starting to blend into each other and my preferred voice bleeding into all the characters. So like, I love, bantery dialogue and like sarcastic kind of snarky dialogue. But I noticed that sometimes all my characters end up sounding the same because I like that. So any advice that you guys have for making sure your characters sound distinct? Maybe like thinking about what different vocabulary my characters use could help. Curious to hear your thoughts. I've lived more than once in a buck raving nowhere location, but it all depends on the reason. Yeah. I've also lived in the middle of nowhere and now I live in LA, so very different vibes. But I don't live downtown. I live more suburby area. I find any degree related to cinema so interesting. When I was younger, me and some friends used to make videos and we wanted to somehow move to LA to work in the industry. That's so awesome. I also used to make little videos with my friends. I feel like that's such a sweet experience. Yeah, it was a fun degree. Obviously, I'm not doing anything with it. I work in marketing right now. Um, Ultimately decided that I didn't want to go through the very rigorous process of trying to break into the film industry, even though a lot of my friends did end up doing that, and moving to LA for that. Ultimately, I just was like, I don't want to be a PA for 10 years, really. I don't love it that much, but it was a really fun degree and it was very creative. And I got to direct several short films, one of which I'm really proud of. So it was fun. I feel it's been really hard to write against my own internal makeup because the main character is repellent of my own personal personality. Mm. Yeah, I think I would find that incredibly difficult too. I gotta say, I think I'm a lot more sweet than the characters I write. Like, I personally would hate some of the banter and stuff that my characters participate in real life. So, in that sense, I've been doing it. But yeah, I agree. Stepping into someone's brain who thinks too drastically differently than mine, I think I would find really challenging. Hi, yes, I do make content, mainly booktube stuff, but I'm working on incorporating more nano writing. I love that. I feel like I literally saw one of your videos pop up today because I think I subscribed to you. That was like all the books I want to read before the end of the year. Correct me if I'm literally wrong and I'm not thinking of the correct person, but I'm pretty sure that was you. Please confirm. If so, so happy to have you here. Your videos look so cute. I'm gonna have to like binge your content. But that's exciting that you're thinking of doing more writing content too. Um, Writing the opposite of you helps. That's a good point. I almost feel like maybe what I have to do is exaggerate the characters' personalities to almost an unrealistic degree and then tone it back to be more subtle but still differentiated because I think if I'm trying to make it all too chill and toned down, I can't really identify their distinct personalities. So maybe I just need to make them really extreme. Like, for example, I'm reading a series right now where one of the characters is like a cowboy vibe, and all of the way he talks is very like cowboyish, and his whole mannerism and how he dresses, and it's a little extreme, right? But sometimes I feel like maybe I need those extreme personifications and then I can dial it back just to distinguish who I'm working with. My protagonist is my alter ego's brother. Oh, interesting. Yes, I love that. I'm currently a PA and breaking into the industry is definitely something. That's so freaking funny. I had no idea that I had someone in the film industry in this chat right now. That's so cool. What do you want to do within the industry? Are you like trying to direct, trying to write, trying to do lighting? What's the vibe? Yeah, it certainly seems like an experience from my friends who have done it. It looks very challenging. I feel like you have to really go after it. Distinct personalities will be tied a lot to theme, which in turn is tied to conflict. How are different people going to respond to the same problem? Ooh, that's an interesting question to ask myself. Yeah, maybe I need to do some exercises of just like, okay, how would each of my characters react to this? And if the reactions are too similar, I need to do some more character work. That's a really good advice, Adam. Thank you. I have a cheat sheet for all my characters that remind me of their personality. Example, character A is poor and works as a seamstress. She will describe things that relate to that. That's a good idea. I think part of this problem is likely airing from the fact that I don't know my characters' backstories as well as I need to. I have some key facts about each of the characters. For example, Varen, who's the male lead, is the ruler's son, right? But I don't feel like that is showing enough in the way that he talks and acts. Like, I feel like maybe he needs to sound a little bit more proper sometimes, or, just kind of talk in a different way about things. So that's a good point. I need to like explore their backstories more. The bricks wove together like, oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Like different metaphors and stuff based on a character's background. Hi, yes, I just uploaded an end of year TBR vid today. Oh my god. Okay, I'm so happy that I remembered that. That's amazing. I'm gonna have to watch that. I'm trying to like get more into watching booktube content. My friend Amina has also started a booktube channel, so she's had her channel for a while, but she's starting to make more booktube videos. One of my past books was me writing as if two versions of me was revealing which version was the actual focus. Oh, that's really interesting. I've never really woven anything personal into my fiction. It's never really felt natural or like something I wanted to do. But I know that a lot of people do. I guess the only personal thing I've sort of done is I modeled a side character in my current book off of my grandpa just to get some inspiration for like what he would look like, which was kind of fun. It's so hard separating our own voices from the characters. Unless you're an experienced writer, I think you just have to write till you really know your character, even if it takes a long time. I think the same. I do think that the voice is something that will continue to evolve throughout the rough draft, and then I'll probably have to reinsert that voice into the earlier parts of the draft retroactively, because I totally agree. I don't think there's really a shortcut. Even if I were to do like a character sheet and figure out a bunch of facts about my character, I've heard lots of writers say that that's helpful and all, but the best way to get to know your character is just through the writing process. Because a character is not just a list of facts and traits, right? They're the way that they respond, the way that they move, the way that they talk. So as for voice, try to remember that the words from someone's mouth have to come from a thought process in their head. Oh, that's really interesting. That's a very good point. YouTuber Shailene Bishop has also talked about writing character profiles with questions answered from the character's perspective as if they were happening in the story itself. Ooh, that's interesting. Something that I did once for a character in the past was recording a voice memo from the character's perspective, kind of talking about my past and like my upbringing, the state of my life. And I actually found that kind of helpful because it allowed me to like talk through it in a way that felt a lot more natural than just writing out a character profile. So that was interesting. But yeah, that's a good advice. I do think answering the questions from the character's perspective would help with actually sounding like the character. In many scenarios, characters will talk over each other. It's harder, but not impossible to do in novels. Yeah, the talking over each other and the cutting off lines is something I've been kind of conscious of when I'm writing, because I do feel like, I don't know, something we always learned in screenwriting was that it's actually really hard to have cut off lines in like a script, because when people speak that, if they don't know where the rest of the sentence is going, it'll seem really forced and stunted. So for some reason, I've been thinking specifically about audiobooks. I'm like, if I have a bunch of cut off lines where characters get cut off by another character, that's going to be super awkward if an audiobook is made for my story. It's such a random thing to be thinking about when writing dialogue, but it's something that's crossed my mind. Honestly, every book I've ever written reflected a part of my own personal journey at the time. It's its own infinity saga. That's really cool. I don't know why I've never felt the desire or need to put personal content into my stories. I think it's because part of the reason that I love fantasy so much is the sort of escapist, otherworldly element of it. So to integrate personal content would be would kind of break some of that catharticness for me. Greta Gerwig does a thing in her screenplays where slashes will indicate a character being interrupted mid-line by the next character's line. Yeah, and I was doing that too as well, but it's tricky. There's so many things that you don't realize is important until starting a book. Like I probably wouldn't have even considered the character's voice initially. Very true. It's definitely not something you first think of, right? Like you're really focused on the plot points and character relationships more so than like, okay, how does this character sound like in her own head? But it's so integral to the story. And thank you for the nails compliment. I was talking at the beginning of the stream about how it literally took 3 hours, which is why I was late signing on to the stream. I had a question for you guys and it just escaped my brain. Give me 2 seconds. What was it? Oh, I'd be curious to hear, do you guys want to publish eventually? Do you think you would want to go the traditional publishing or self-publishing route? Do you have a timeline for when you're aiming for that? Or are you just kind of writing and seeing where it takes you? Kind of a big question, but something I want to put out there because I love nerding out about discussions like this. Personally, I want to eventually self-publish, and I probably will end up self-publishing the book I'm working on now, even if just for the practice of the process. Whether or not I release it publicly or not, I would want to at least turn it into a physical form for myself at the very least. But yeah, let me know. Here's the thing, it's a subconscious part of writing. We always put a part of ourselves in our characters. I figured, why fight it? That's true, and I would be curious, maybe when this piece is done, or I don't know, when I get further into the drafts, I'll start to identify pieces of myself in the writing, because I agree, like, whether or not you do it intentionally, whether or not it's explicit, some piece of you always ends up in your work. That's what makes it your work, you know? Yes, I want to publish. Since I have 3 finished already, I need an editor. I'm too close to my work. Yeah, having an editor is key. Are you planning to hire like a freelance editor, or are you planning to like get an editor through traditional publishing? I already have my eye on some editors that I think I would want to work with when the time comes. Probably for a line edit, I'm thinking, or a copy edit. I don't know. Still unsure. I'm just writing and seeing where it takes me, especially because this is my first book in my adult life, and I'm not super confident that this will be one to query with. I totally feel that because this is also my first book in my adult life. That's cool that you want to query though. Yeah, that obviously is a bit of a I feel like for those who want to go the traditional publishing route, you do have to be very conscious of which project you're entering into that realm with. So I totally get that. Traditional published before I'm 30. That sounds far away. Trust me, it's not. Oh well. Yeah, I know it takes many years to accomplish goals. That's definitely something that I've been learning in the past couple years. I used to think that I could like achieve any goal in like a year or two, and that's just not the case. But that's exciting. I love that for you. Treating this nano as a warm up to get back into writing consistently, and then we'll see what happens. I totally feel that. I feel like I'm treating it the same freaking way because I literally have only been working on this book for a couple months. So I feel you there. But yes, I love the perspective of seeing it as a warm up and a way to get like momentum started. I would love some more beta readers. Beta reading seems so freaking fun. I can't wait to be able to send my project to beta readers when it's in revision. I have a feeling that's going to end up being after draft like 3 or 4 that I bring in betas. My handful of produced plays just require a willing publisher. It would be a collection of one acts, which I've considered letting other community theaters put on royalty free. Oh, that'd be so cool to see your plays be put on by community theaters. I love that. So have you been like sending them out to publishers, etc.? Have you like started that process of trying to look for distribution and stuff? I'd really love to be traditionally published. It's kind of hard to do it here in Brazil, but I'm not in a hurry. Got a lot going on in life. Yeah, definitely no rush with any of this stuff, but I do think it's fun to just think about, even if it's distant. That's awesome, though. Lots of people that want to be traditionally published. I love that for you. It needs to be mulled over. Another perspective or 5 will help a lot. Yeah, I do think getting outside perspectives help. I have a feeling I'm going to end up being way too close to this book and also need that. But I think it's a careful balance because I'm also wary of the too many cooks in the kitchen thing. And I also think I would want to really specifically select my betas because just in general, I'm the type of person who is very sensitive to feedback. And I would need betas that I trust to be honest, but also be encouraging. So yeah, that's going to be quite a bridge to cross, but I think it helps to know what feedback you want from readers. Are there specific pain points you want them to talk about or give their opinion on, and finding the bright betas for your story, for sure. Just a quick appreciation for the viewers. You all are so active and fun to talk to. I totally agree. Totally agree. No problem. I'd love to see you in our own videos. Aww. That's sweet. Yeah, Amina will be back on the stream next week, which we absolutely love. She's such a fun co-host, and Amina, I miss having you on screen with me. I'm like running out of air trying to respond to all of these comments by myself. Canada has a playwrights guild that releases most work by the East Coast writers, but apart from the union fees, they have a bunch of weird hoops to jump through that. Long story short, I couldn't do. Fair enough. Yeah, the incessant amount of hoops to jump through in general when you are being published or supported by some other entity is one of the reasons why I personally think I'm gravitating towards self-publishing. I also just feel like the businessy side and like getting a cover designed and all of that stuff sounds so fun and appealing to me that I'm like, I kind of want that in my own hands. Though I won't want to do marketing, so I have a feeling I'm going to have to hire somebody for that. But all of this is very down the line. I can't imagine I'll be publishing until at least 2025. We can all agree you're doing so good hosting. Thank you, Amina. I'm trying. I appreciate that. Yeah. Whew, oh my god, I'm, like, out of breath. How are we feeling, guys? Is everyone, like, dead and tired and ready to sleep, or do we wanna do one more session? I could honestly go either way. Let me know. I won't be wounded. Oh, I might be wounded. No, I'm kidding, but, let me know how you're feeling. Uh, as for a novel, if I ever finish one, my ideal route would be to serialize it first in a magazine. Few people have done that since the 21st century started, but it can work if done well. That's really interesting. I also heard that, I think it was Amazon released some sort of serialized, option where you can, like, sell your book as a serialized form where readers get the first few chapters free and then they can pay with tokens to read the rest. I heard about this on a writing podcast, by Kate's Book Date. So, but that just reminded me of it, kind of irrelevant, but yeah, that would be really cool to serialize it in a magazine. Please breathe. Thank you. I wish I had more hot cocoa to, like, give me a proper rest in between talking. My greatest issue is that I'm all about the world building, but I lack enough visual describing. Me too. I'm like, why do I not know what things look like when it comes to writing? It honestly makes me think, like, am I just unaware about the world? Because I read writing that has such vivid details about how things, like, feel or smell, and I'm like, I could not put any of that shit into words if I tried. Amen to Amin's comment. Thank you. I need to keep writing. Okay, could go for one more sprint. Note taken, we'll do one more. If not my book, then add more into my mangosteen video. Nice. Amazon tokens, not what I had in mind, but sure. I know that was so vague and confusing. That's just what it reminded me of, but a magazine is cooler. I also hear that that Amazon serialized thing was kind of a bit of a wash. So, but just interesting all of the options that are out there for how to release writing and books and content. Like it's so fun to think of all the possibilities. Whew, okay, guys. I think we're gonna get into the next sprint before I actually run out of air, and I'm gonna grab a snack. But yeah, we're gonna do one more to close out this stream, and then we'll do a final chat and wrap it all up. So, okay, Eduardo, thank you so much for joining us. Totally understand it is late as fuck there, but thanks for joining, and hope you come back for the next one. All right, let's go ahead and get into the sprint. Sorry, guys, that was really chaotic and difficult. We have a 30-second countdown before the sprint starts. All right, guys, that is the end of our third and final sprint. How did everyone do that time? I am finishing off today these 3 sprints with a total of, let's see, 874 words. Nothing crazy, but also not bad. Almost made it to 1,000. Pretty happy with that. How about you guys? What are your word counts looking like after that sprint? Or if you're working on something besides writing, what did you get done? How are you feeling about your overall productivity during this stream? Let me know. Let me know. Peter's up to 40,571. So that was a couple hundred since last time, right? Celine, I'm working on marketing stuff for my debut. Your debut. Oh, that's exciting. Like your debut release. Would love to hear more about this. That's really exciting. Are you working on like marketing materials for like social media or um just let me know. I'm curious. Realized why I went to the kitchen. It was for water. Hope you finally got your water. I had a bowl of cereal during that last sprint, but still managed to write a couple hundred words despite the fact that I was also snacking, which is good. I'm kind of missing that hot chocolate. I wish I still had it. I did finish off all the mini marshmallows though, and that hit the spot. I'm trying to think, what did I write in that session? Honestly, nothing that exciting. I have a feeling that some of this, I don't want to say filler, but kind of filler stuff is going to end up being cut out. But at this point, because I have been such an underwriter up until this point, I'm like trying not to self-censor whatever's coming to me. Like, even if it's a scene that necessarily doesn't need to be in the final, that's okay. I'm just writing anything I have ideas for. Yeah, social media is actually released already very recently. Oh my God, that's so exciting. Tell me more about the debut. That's actually so freaking cool. Did you self-publish it? I would love to hear about it. What's the book about? Give us all the details. What type of cereal? It was a mix of Cheerios and Honey Bunches of Oats. OMG, hello to a fellow Celine. We have 2 Celines in the chat right now. That's so exciting. Celine, literally, when I first saw other Celine's message, I was like, is Celine logged into a different account? Is this her? Like, I did a double take. That's so funny. Hello to both Celines. We love to see it. Yeah. Oh my God, guys, my brain is getting foggy. I decided to end yesterday at 40,000 to easily check my word count. Oh, okay. So for today's sprints, you got 571 words. Yeah, not bad. I assume you've had much higher word count days considering you're past 40K at this point, but any progress is good progress. Yeah, word count is so funny to me. Like usually sometimes I'll write for almost 2 hours and only get 1,000 words. Other times I'll get over 2K words. I feel like it's so dependent on how I'm feeling in the day. Honey Bunches of Oats, thank you for reminding me. They're on sale at the Superstore. Honestly, Honey Bunches of Oats, one of my favorite types of cereal. And I never had it as a child, so I'm just joining the wave now. Yeah, self-published. It's a spicy dystopian thriller about a woman who is part of an assassin organization. She's been fine killing people she thought were bad. Oh my God, that sounds so fun. I love dystopian. My story has some dystopian elements. Spicy dystopian thriller. That sounds so freaking fun. Send me the details of this book. I would love to check it out. Is it like gory and stuff as well? Like, would you say it's are there other warnings of like adult content besides the obvious assassinry and spice? Because this sounds really interesting. It's because of how many pre-words I had to work with throughout the year. Oh, interesting. So were you like moving like little snippets and stuff that you had already kind of written into your draft? Finishing off with 885 from the sprints. Thank you so much for hosting this. It was very productive. Oh my God, thank you so much for joining. We ended up with very similar word counts, a little over 800 words, which honestly is great. I love that for us. So glad you enjoyed it. I hope you come back next week for our sprint on next Saturday. Super cool to have you here, Mick. And I'm definitely going to be binging your videos soon. But her newest target is someone she never expected, and she's having issues killing him. He keeps evading her. Ooh, that's really fun. I think that's such a fun concept. There's I think it's interesting to present one of your characters with a decision that they really struggle with, and that's like kind of morally icy. Um, I'm doing something similar at the end of my book where I'm trying not to spoil it, but the character has to essentially decide whether or not he would be willing to kill somebody close to him. So, yeah, it's always fun playing with those sorts of moral conflicting things. I actually had to not use part of my notes for how the story was flowing this month. Yeah, I feel like that always happens. There's a certain scene that you think you want to happen a certain way, or just some plan that you had that no longer becomes relevant the more you get into the story and like learn about how it's actually going. So I've definitely had that too. I've had to cut out notes or parts of my brainstorm that just didn't make sense anymore. It's just a tad gory, but I'd say it's not as bad as any horror. And the torture scene would be the worst of it. Other than that, nothing else. Ooh, okay. I would super be interested in reading it then. Definitely send me the deets. Sounds cool. And congrats on the release of your debut. How have you felt about the release so far? Is it getting the sort of like traction that you were hoping? Do you have plans to release more self-published books in the future? But yeah, during the course of the book, secrets are revealed that may affect her entire life with the organization, and it ends on a cliffhanger. Ooh, that's fun. So are you planning to make it a series, I assume? Writing a series sounds simultaneously so fun and so daunting. I think I mentioned a little earlier that I'm thinking my current project will end up being a duology, maybe. But I don't have many ideas beyond the second book. I feel like it could end up being a whole series, but I feel like going into a series as my first real writing project sounds very intimidating. Novels used to eat up a lot of time for me because I would forget to stop. One project kept clocking 30K words a day, but then people would call asking if I was still alive. That's insane. 30,000 words in a day? I am amazed by that. That's honestly awesome, but I could totally understand how that would be unsustainable. Yeah. Diff checking out everyone's channel is refreshing to see other new aspiring authors documenting their process. Yes. I also will have to be checking out some of your channels for those of you who have mentioned that you also create content. But yeah, it's so fun being part of the author community. How welcoming it is to new writers has been so nice and sweet. So thank you guys for making me feel welcome, even as a beginner. I know a lot of you can relate to being kind of early on in your writing journey and working on your first few projects. This was a part 2 from last year's book where I added to what I didn't use from it. I see. Okay. Okay, so that, yeah, definitely would help with you being able to get to those higher word counts. Thanks, it's been exciting. Not as much traction as I'd hoped, but I'm just mostly excited to have my very first book out there. It was mainly for me. I have gotten a few sales, though. I totally feel this because I think I would have the same exact perspective. There's something just very, very personally fulfilling about putting out a novel into the world. So I totally understand you saying it's mainly for you. But yeah, I also have heard from a lot of people who do self-publishing that it's the type of thing that builds up, and the more backlisted titles you have, the more books you have out, the more it builds. So I definitely think it's totally normal to have more of a quiet first debut. I think it's so cool. We have 2 Celines here. I've actually never seen someone else with my name before. Oh, that's sweet. Besides Celine Dion. LOL. That's actually so funny because the other Celine that's here, her at is Celine like Dion. Yes. So that's actually really funny that you say that. I've yet to put my writing content on my channel, but you can hear how I write from it. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So are you planning to put writing content on your channel soon? Honestly, making writing content has been so much more fun than I could have ever expected. As you guys probably know, if you've seen my videos, I have a main channel that's like more just like a lifestyle type of channel. It has a wider range of content, and honestly, the writing content has been such a refreshing change of pace. I'm really enjoying making the videos. So even though I said when I started this channel that I was going to upload a lot in nano time and then slow down, I definitely think I'm still gonna keep posting on here because it's just been so fun. I'm so glad that we had a productive little stream together, guys. I think we're gonna start closing this down. I'm really tired, and I think I'm just gonna go read in bed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I've mentioned a few times, I will have another stream next week with Amina on Saturday. I'll be posting that probably like the day before. So if you want to join for some final nano sprints, we'll be doing that next week. But other than that, that'll be it. And I will see you guys in my next video, probably in a couple days. So keep an eye out for Nano Diaries Part 2. And yeah, that's it. Happy writing. Wishing you guys the best of luck with your projects. And thanks for hanging out. All right. Hope you had fun. Bye.